You've seen the work we put in and day out, challenging myths, debunking old wives' tales, and exposing poor breeding practices. Ugh. We spent years researching, studying, and applying real-world experiences to perfect the art of science of breeding. Why? Because you deserve the best, most accurate information out there. But to keep this mission alive and growing, we need your support. If you found value in the Bred to Perfection live show, take a moment, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and share our content. It may seem small, but every like, every subscriber, and every share helps us reach more breeders who need to hear the truth, who want to learn what it really takes to create, maintain, and improve high-quality strains. This isn't just a YouTube channel, it's a movement, and you're a vital part of it. If you believe in what we're doing, if you want to help others discover the power of true breeding, help push this channel to the top. Like, subscribe, and share. Together, we make a difference. Thank you for standing with us. Now, let's get to work. Entertaining, informative, and educational. Inspiring content that makes a difference.
This is the Maximus Troy Publications Broadcasting Network.
Join the Academy. This show is brought to you by the Breeders Academy, where we will help you to increase your knowledge of breeding, advance your skills as a breeder, and help you to improve the quality and performance of your fowl.
As a member, I'll provide you a roadmap that you will need to create a true family or strain. Starting with a cock from one breeder and a hen from another breeder, no problem. We can help you to turn your flock of hybrid crosses or mongrels into a pure family or strain, and show you how to continually improve that strain each generation. We'll start by showing you how to select your seed fowl and how to turn that seed fowl into a high-quality foundation strain. Our proven breeding programs and specialty courses are designed to take you step by step through the breeding process. And best of all, I'll be there to help you every step of the way.
We urge you to check it out. You have nothing to lose, and you can cancel at any time. You also have a 30-day money-back guarantee. Simply go to www.breedersacademy.com to sign up.
The Breeders Academy will not only change the way you think about breeding, but improve the way you breed your fowl.
You know, you could have asked for my consent before forcing me to see something so completely and utterly disgusting.
Okay, welcome to another episode of Bred to Perfection. I'm Kenny Troiano, founder of the Breeders' Academy, and I'm here with my wife, Nancy, and that was compliments of Tani in her favorite show. What's up?
He never shows me beforehand what these little shorts are going to be, so I'm in the background just laughing my butt off. It's great.
Yeah, that's how I know they're a hit or not, the way Nancy reacts, So what's going on?
Oh my gosh. Oh, I got something to tell you. No, not you, but you. Okay. All our people that
Am
are
I gaining
listening out
weight?
there. And no.
Okay.
All the people out there in YouTube land.
Okay.
We had a really good time last Wednesday at the members roundtable. We were on for almost an hour and a half.
Yeah.
It was really
got
good.
a lot of good questions. Yep.
Mm-hmm. It was a lot of fun.
So sometimes we cover a topic and sometimes we do Q&As, and it's really neat because they can ask questions they wouldn't be able to ask or don't ask on the front end. And they kind of ask the questions they normally ask even during a coaching call. So it kind of helps out with the coaching calls too. So yeah, it was fun. I think we're going to do members roundtables every other week.
Yep, it's going to be fun. Oh my gosh, check
We've got
this
a full
out.
schedule. What's that?
So Sue goes, hello from Tornado Alley, Oklahoma. And so I told her, I've been worrying about you. I was, because I've been hearing about the weather out there. And she said 3 tornadoes on the ground this evening. Oh my God. How do you people do it?
Well, they probably say the same thing about us. How do you deal with all the fires and the earthquakes? And it's like an amusement park over here, so yeah, I feel sorry for some people.
Rolling. No, it's not that bad. I mean, you guys out there in Oklahoma, Texas, and all those other places, you get weather every other flipping day. We get a earthquake once every blue moon, but not. I'm knocking on wood because now tomorrow we're going to get a 6-pointer earthquake. And I'm going to go, yeah, finally he showed up. So
yeah, it's more like, was that earthquake? Shaking my windows. But it's funny, this outline that we're doing today is going to be interesting. It's one that Nancy brought up just, I think, from we were driving the car, and she goes, what makes up a genetically weak bird? What defects, what weaknesses are genetic? And we get into these kind of conversations. Sometimes it's in the den here, which we did today. Matter of fact, I was really torn on which one I wanted to do after the conversation we had a few moments ago. Or we'll be driving the car and she'll start asking me questions, and I'm always like, why didn't we record that? Because we go deep, as if we were doing a show. Probably some of the best talking you'll ever hear. And so this is one of them, and I held on to it for a little while, and I thought I'd do it today. But it was so funny. Like I said, there was one that Nancy asked me. Do you remember what the question was?
Yes, I do. Do you want me to say what the question was? The question was.
What good are you, man? Had something to do with defects and genetics and everything. No.
How do defects and disqualifications influence the genetic? No,
it wasn't.
Defect and disqualifications. Something with genetic influences.
Oh my God, you just told them nothing. Okay.
I swear to God, I'm not drunk. I swear.
I don't remember what it was, and I don't know if we
I'll have to
diverted
go get the piece of paper out of my trash can because I still have it.
I don't know if this had to do with that or it got diverted, because sometimes we kind of go off the rails, off the road, and before we know it, we start talking about something else. And so tell me if this was part of it.
Wait, hold on, Kenny.
What?
Here we go.
What?
What are the common defects and disqualifications that are genetically influenced? That was the question.
Okay. And I said, well, all of them. And then we got in a big discussion because some of them can be caused by the environment or nutrition, things like that, but it's always genetics that allows it to happen. And so then we started getting into, we went deeper into some other topics, which I started writing them down as she's talking because her desk, let's see, her desk is right here. Okay. I didn't even pull my desk out today. I usually kind of pull it out and point it that way. I didn't even bother doing that today. And so we're back to back and we're talking and she's asking me questions and it's sparking something in my brain. So as she's talking, I don't know if she knew it, but I was kind of writing all these things down. I'm like, these are really good topics. And I was like, in the topic, I mean, the title I wrote down was Why Breeders Fail to Create True Strains. And I know it seems aligned with a lot of what we already talk about. And then the subtitle was Major Factors That Change the Game. And these are kind of like the things that we talk about all the time, but I don't know if we've ever covered them in one episode because it's all the things that, yes, if you don't do, let's see, how do I want to say this? If you don't do them, even just one of them, that's not how I want to say that.
You're worse than me.
No, listen, they're all important. They're major factors in the breeding and creation and improvement of a strain, but and all of them together would make a fantastic strain if you understand how to do them properly. But if you just miss one of them, in most cases, it doesn't work. And these are all the things that most people never considered, don't know about, wouldn't even think about. And it's a reason why they rely on, let's say, old wives' tales and superstitions and things like that, because they're not sure the direction they should go. They listen to other people and how they do it. And I think part of it was sparked by a coaching call I had. I do my coaching calls on Thursdays now. And I did a coaching call with one of my members. And we were talking about how these old game fowl breeders used to do things and how they do them today. And how they were never making progress. And they just kept doing the same thing. And when they wouldn't make progress, they would just add new blood. And they just always felt like that was the way it's done. And so I started writing down all the things that her and I were talking about. We were back to back as we're talking, but I'm writing them down. And I thought I could have just did this one, but we do have the outline. And I'm going to go ahead with that one. But maybe even do this one either on Monday or next week. Like meiosis. Now, a lot of people are going to take that for granted.
You're just going to go.
I'm just going to talk about the headlines. Okay. I'm not going to go into deep. A lot of people dismiss the value of meiosis, but it's a major factor when it comes to how you select your birds, how related they should be, and whether you're going to make progress when you breed them. Okay. Then it goes into gene linkage. And I know I'm highlighting them, but we're going to go way deeper in this. This is really good stuff. Then you go into gene linkage and it's like, okay, you put the bird together, and especially if they're not related, are the traits, because they're so unpredictable, how many of those traits are going to be passed together? And if they're not passed together, then, how close or how good of a family are they, and how reliable are those traits going to be? Okay. Then polygenics. Everybody's all stuck on monogenic traits, dominant, recessive, sex linked sometimes. Okay. Maybe now and then they'll dabble in co-dominant or incomplete dominant type traits, but nobody understands polygenic. And it's a major part of your selection and major part of your breeding, and that most of the bird is polygenic. And without that, and not understanding that, most of the traits are always trying to improve. They're never going to get there. They're just not going to be able to improve because they don't understand the traits that are polygenic and the factors of those traits, the genetic factors of those traits, and how to properly select them and breed them to get the results you're looking for. And now I know that Nancy kind of sparked me to actually write this stuff on paper, but it was the conversation I had yesterday with one of my members that really woke me up. It was like between what Nancy said and what he said, or between the conversation him and I had, really sparked an idea. And then again, genetic resistance, which we talk about in the immune system, huge. And a lot of people don't breed for genetic resistance because they're just medicating them. They don't understand that there's a better way to go. Mitochondrial DNA, huge. Without the proper hen, you're just never going to get there. She's such a major factor in the quality of your strain, in the future of the strain, and then prepotency, which kind of goes with mitochondrial DNA, but it's sometimes when it comes to prepotency, it could be a major part of the cock where the mitochondrial DNA is the hen. Every time, major things. And then I was like, Nancy, look at the list. Am I missing anything? And she started adding things really quick, like epigenetics and the three-legged stool. Major factor in the quality of birds you're going to get, or the results you're going to get, if depending on your geographical area and how good the birds are and what's hiding within the genome when you get birds from other people and bring them on your farm. What are the results going to be, and what are you going to do with those results? How are you going to perpetuate them? How are you going to improve on them, or how are you going to get rid of them? That kind of thing. And then genetic drift, which goes so well with a program I created called Improvement Through Reduction, which is based on genetic drift. Genetic drift is so important. You can use it to your benefit, or it'll work against you. If you don't understand it, most of the time it just works against you, but it really destroys strains. And then the one thing I can't talk about, which we would have to extend it and go into the Breeders' Academy, is how this all affects the breeding program, such as the Founders Program and all the different stages and phases of the Founders Program, and how these different things affect those. Okay. And then Nancy's like, well, if you're going to talk about those, you might as well talk about like defects and type confirmation, carriage station. And I'm like, well, everybody knows about them. They just don't know how. They just it's like something everybody knows, but they don't use it properly. If they don't understand the bird, then even though they know what type means and what confirmation and carriage and station means, it doesn't mean they're going to be able to select the right bird. So we would throw that at the end, and then go into something really important, which is a major factor, which would be gene frequency and gene variability, genetic variability. So I started writing all this stuff down. I was like, I'm looking at this list. I'm going, God, I want to do this. So I need to get my head in the game, get on the outline that we decided to do today, and then do this one later, because I can expand this and make this into a really nice article. The biggest question was, do I do it on the front end or the back end? Because it's really good, So that's where we stand on that. I just got excited because Nancy does that to me all the time. We're like, we'll go. I mean, I have a lot of ideas we could do, but Nancy will ask a question. I'm like, that's the one I'm going to do. It's so funny, Coaching calls. We're doing, I'm scheduling coaching calls with my members. Make sure to contact me inside the Breeders' Academy and do it. I do all my correspondence with the members in there. I get people asking me, and I even get people who aren't members trying to get coaching calls from me too, through my email. So I need all my members to do it inside the Breeders' Academy, because I don't, without going through the trouble of really, looking you up and pulling up the accounts and seeing who's who and whether you're a member or not, which takes time. If you ask me in the Breeders' Academy, I know automatically you're a member, and then we can schedule and go on. And then I have a record of our conversation so that I know where we were, what we did, and what we talked about. So please don't send me requests for coaching calls through my email. It's a really bad place to do it. Not to mention I get a lot of emails, but it is first come, first serve. And if I send you a day and time, it doesn't work, just let me know what does. I'll try to come as close to that as possible. And we'll try to get through the member, get everybody in for a coaching call as soon as possible, because we got kind of behind due to my hip surgery. So I know a lot of people are anxious to get coaching calls before their breeding season. And I'm doing the best I can. Okay. And we are doing them on Thursdays. Really tough to change the day, actually, because we have so many other things going on. We have a really full schedule this year. We're doing a show on Monday. That takes a lot of preparation. Fridays, we do the members roundtable on Wednesday, although it takes me a good week or two to put the information and all the banners. And I'm basically building a program, and then I'm teaching you the program. And on days I get behind, then we'll do a Q&A. So, but we have a pretty full schedule throughout the week. We did get some new members. I want to welcome all the new members. I really appreciate that. get in there, begin with the Start Here pages. Understand there's no deadlines, no falling behind, no need to catch up. There's not going to be any testing. Take your time, get to know the website. I don't schedule coaching calls until you've been there at least 30 days because I really want you to get used to the website, understand and learn to navigate the website, and write your questions down as you go. Chances are the website's going to answer them as you go through it. If not, then we'll do a coaching call and we'll discuss it. So
another thing that we don't mention enough is we have an audio version of our Bread to Perfection Live every Monday. It comes out every Monday. You can catch that on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Check them out. And those ones are clean. We have edited through it. We got rid of all the ums and ahs. And so it's a nice listen to.
Yeah. Again, I'll say it again, is this show here is basically the raw footage of our podcast.
Yeah.
So it's like, if we mess up here, we don't care because I edit it out and then we put together the podcast. The podcast is the show. This is just the recording of the show and the raw footage. That's how we look at it. So for those who are thinking about joining the Breeders' Academy, this is a good time. Just go to www.breedersacademy.com. Once you join, you're going to have instant access to the website. You're going to have access to the Founders Program, the Masters Class videos, the Members Roundtables, all the programs and courses, which are very informative, but they're also support the breeding programs that we have. You're going to get the complete collection of podcasts, live shows, all the daily articles, and we have some really good contributors like Brian Reeder on genetics, Peter Brown, known as the Chicken Doctor, Dr. Gallardo on healthcare and disease prevention, and we do the coaching calls. So if you're interested, just go to www.breedersacademy.com to subscribe. Okay, anything you want to say before we get going?
Yes. Oh my gosh. During that time, we've got 10 comments.
Okay.
I'll have to read through them. But this is kind of funny. Sue goes that she was blessed with getting several crevecoeur hens from Jeanette Behringer when she dispersed her flock. And then so I go, quarantine time. And Sue, she's so ahead of the game. She goes, way past that. I've got babies in the brooder already.
Cool.
She is just so ahead of the game. I love how motivated she is and her wealth of knowledge, and it's just awesome.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Anything else?
Let's see. All right. People were asking about Frank and how he's doing.
Yeah, he's really busy right now. I talked to him, and his I don't know if I want to say what's going on, but because that's his privacy kind of thing. But he's really busy. He's got a lot going on. It's wearing him thin. He felt really bad. I told him, hey, Frank, just take your time whenever you're not willing, but ready and able. You're always welcome to come on the show. And but just worry about you, take care of you, and don't worry about the show. So as soon as he gets ahead of the game and gets back on track, then I'm sure he'll come back. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's never given me an indication that he's done. This is a really hard time for him right now. So
yeah, he's great. We miss him a lot. Yeah. He's always welcome to come back anytime he's ready.
Yeah. So
we're happy to have him. Okay. So Frank and Pony was saying, and I'm just going to say this before we get started into the meat and potatoes. And I love that, Frank and Pony. But anyway, I think it's super cool that you two get to work together so much more now. It's really cool to see. I feel like it's time for Nancy to start her own strain. Oh, I know. No, it's not. You will not believe I am retired, but I am not retired, and I'm doing plenty of stuff helping Kenny out.
I've got her pretty busy. Plus, we started another sub business.
Yeah.
Under the Maximus Troy Publications, so she's busy with that too. So the BA's first, the show's first. But as soon as she's done doing everything I have her do, then she has her other things she's doing too. So it's going to be a busy year, packed year. Ready to go?
Ready to go.
See if we can make sense of this.
We're going to hit the ground running. I'm telling you, this is going to be an awesome year.
Yeah. Okay.
So what are we talking about again?
I don't know. I'm trying to. This is the third time I tried to spit it out. But okay. So it was Nancy's idea. So if it doesn't go well, this is all her fault. Okay.
No, it's not.
It's your fault, Mom. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. Okay.
Oh my God.
Okay. So the idea is identifying the genetically weak birds, understanding what constitutes genetic weakness, and why it's essential for everyone who's trying to create a strain. Okay. So I told Nancy she's going to be a big part of this one because I thought I want to try to make it a conversation. It's basic information. In some ways, you know it, but I want to see if I'm bring different light to it. And through conversation, I hope it's a good one. So, Nancy, creating a strain, it's not an accident.
It shouldn't be an accident, although sometimes it is an accident. But creating a good strain, there's a lot of thought that goes into that. I mean, you've got to know what you're doing to create a good strain. Just creating a strain just in general, hell, I can do that.
Anybody can throw two birds together, right?
I don't have the knowledge that you have, and I could manage that one, but no, it takes some knowledge, it takes some thought, it takes some patience, it takes all of the above. Observation, discipline. Discipline's a big one.
Yeah, and patience. So to be a good breeder, you have to be well-rounded. You've got to have the knowledge of your birds. You have to have the knowledge of breeding and the proper programs. Okay. Not only just observe the birds, but really understand what you're seeing. Because a lot of people, they can stare at a bird and not see what's wrong with it. They could have defects all over the place and not even know they were there. They could admire the bird and not realize it doesn't represent their breed. Okay. And then once you get that knowledge and you know what you're looking at, it's the discipline to stick with it, to follow a breeding program, and to understand the results that you're getting and what to do with it, and then follow it through. Okay. And then like Nancy said, the last one would be patience, is to understand that this takes time. This is not something that's going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen within a few years. The ones that crack me up are the ones that think that after a year or two, they got a strain. I would say you're lucky to have even come close to a strain within less than 5 or 6 years. And that's if the birds are in good shape. They don't have any real weaknesses like sickness or defects or anything like that. And I would even assume that even though I bought what I would call an established strain from a accomplished breeder, that when I bring them into my place, especially if it's somebody out of state or quite a ways away and they have a different geographical or geological area. Did I say that right? Geological
environment.
Area? Yeah, different environment. Good. Than what we have here. You can expect them to change. Okay. And we're going to talk about that too, like Nancy was saying in that other outline, which is going to seem like it's mirroring this one in some ways, is the epigenetics. A lot of people will get birds, and although the birds that they bought didn't change, and they pretty much stay the same from year to year, but the offspring they produce do change. And then there's either that, wow, these are better than I thought they were, and the breeders know, how'd you get those? I didn't even get them that good. Or they're really bad, and you feel like you got ripped off because you felt like the breeder sold you some pretty bad fowl or unrelated or birds with faults, and you get birds that are all over the place. And that very well could be that they did send you birds with faults, hidden recessives. They could be unrelated. That's all true. But assuming that they gave you good birds, you can still expect them to change. And that could be an issue. So you got to know what to do about that. So the next one would be...
well, you may have answered this, but let me ask you this. If somebody gave you some birds that you trusted and that you know knows how to breed his birds and it's a really good strain, he's already done the homework of going through and wiping out all of the bad genes and choosing all the good ones, and he's got a good strain going, and you get a pair from him or her, is it still going to take you like 6 or 7 years before you can call that strain cleaned up?
Yeah, it goes back to the epigenetics we were talking about.
Well, I mean, what if he's in, okay, 2 hours away from here. Is that still a big difference?
Okay. Then there could be the selection because see that breeder, okay, we talk about all the time that even though these birds, a lot of people say there's no such thing as purity of blood. Okay. Now I'm a believer that if you have fowl that you've bred, you've worked on for a long time, and you've got them coming pretty uniform and consistent, and they're predictable, you're not getting any surprises. And when you breed them, they repeat themselves. I would say you have a pure strain. And my birds are like that. I don't see surprises. But I wouldn't be surprised if I gave my birds to someone else and they started seeing things I didn't see, or I do see things from time to time and I just cull them out, and I just keep the birds on track. Now, they may be, to me, they are pure, but they are domestic birds. They're not wild birds. So Mother Nature hasn't had thousands of years of work on them. If I didn't do any selection whatsoever, I guarantee you, even my birds here is uniform as they come and very predictable. That if I didn't do any selection whatsoever and said, Nancy, just go breed my birds, just start sticking them together. Don't worry about what you get. And let me come back 10 years later and they would probably be they would most likely be completely different. It's like when Tony was here. Now, him and I, the Colonel Givens fowl that we ended up getting, we both got the original seed fowl. We split the offspring, and his are different than mine. And he was just down the road because I'm going to select them different. And some of those traits that they have could be very subtle, but it's something that really appealed to your eye and you select for it. Whereas I automatically would get rid of it, let's say. Okay, because I'm only going to select and breed to a handful of what I call the standouts to keep improving my fowl each generation. So I think it does matter. But go ahead.
Well, what gives somebody the confidence that they are selecting properly?
Experience, time, experience. Following, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but the Breeders' Academy. There's so much information. You're basically educating yourself. And as you're reading this stuff and learning it, listening to the videos, you're applying whatever experience you already have to what you're learning right now. And you're going to either realize, wow, everything I've been doing so far has been wrong. Everything I've heard from other people is wrong. Or it's going to confirm that you've been doing it right all this time. So when you're learning new things, you're going to always apply that experience you've had from the past. And then it's up to you whether you're going to adjust your principles and your practices after that, whether you're going to improve and get a better result.
But wouldn't also it depend on your knowledge of the standard or perfection, what that bird is supposed to look like?
Okay, now the standards are important when you're trying to keep the birds. You want the birds to represent their breed. Yeah. And if everybody's following the same standard, then all their birds are going to look alike. That's the whole idea. Okay, so the standard's important, but again, you still have to learn how to read the standard as well. The problem, like the American game is having right now, is there's too many standards out there, and I actually think there's only one out there I would follow, and that would be Tony Seville's, which is very close to what I have on my Breeders' Academy. So I actually think that his is the best. But and I just heard recently that the American Poultry Association may be adopting the American game and actually entering them in the standard. And my suggestion to them is don't follow those other standards, because what I've been seeing and looking at, because I have them here, I ordered them. I don't think they're a good standard. Everything I heard was that they adopted multiple standards to make their own. Why would they do that? Okay. Tony's is perfect. There ain't a better standard out there than his. Why would you adopt all these different standards to make one when we already have one? So I looked it up. I looked it over and I was like, wow, this is mumbo jumbo. This is a mess. Okay. So I don't think the American Poultry Association is going to adopt someone else's standard. I hope that the people that are writing the standard for the APA, the standard perfection, understands what the American game should look like, so that when they do write it down, they're right. So I hope they're getting their advice from the right people, because that's going to matter, because the ones that are promoting it now don't know what they're talking about. I hate to say it, but they just don't.
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I don't know how we got down that road. That's not where I really wanted to go. The
No.
standard, no. Listen, the standard is important, but following the right standard is even more important. Understanding the standard, following the right standard, and then as you're selecting, um, if you're following, how do I want to say this? See, it's like one standard here doesn't even give pictures, and the few pictures I did see didn't match what American game looked like. Okay, that is a problem. So, yeah, you do have to know what the breed, what represents a breed, so that you can select properly. And finding the right person to help you with that is a big deal. So, what are they saying?
Okay, so we have, I thought they were really good. So Lee is saying, pat yourself on the back because the Founders Program is that good. Never seen anything like it. Will stick with you forever. We love that. And then Ryan is saying, the Breeders Academy is the only way to breed. Become a real breeder and join the Breeders Academy. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate that.
I do appreciate that.
I
Thank
do.
you.
And
Yeah.
back to, I just want to say one more thing about Tony is he's just not some guy who's bred chickens for 30 years or anything like that. He's a judge. So he knows these birds. He knows what he's saying when he talks about these birds.
Yeah. I've said it a million times, but Tony just lived down the road from me. And the way I understood American games, they weren't even called American games at that time. The only American games that we knew were the Bantams that were in the Bantam book, the poultry standard. But I was Tony and me who started really pushing that name, the American game fowl, and now that has taken place, and we all say it now. Before, when I was a kid, we just said game fowl. We didn't say American game fowl. We just always said game fowl, which which opened up the bird for interpretation. Okay. And all anyone ever said was, oh, they just have to have the right station, the right weight, and they have to have the right performance ability. And that was basically it. When we started pushing type and conformation, it was almost like we made up a word to these guys. They didn't understand it. But what I wanted to say was when I went and visited Tony, and me and him would sit on his porch and talk or at his kitchen table, and some of the things he would tell me were like nothing I ever heard before. And it just opened my eyes like, wow. It was like, it opened a whole new world. I looked at the bird in a whole different way. And that's when I started teaching what Tony was teaching me. I was starting to write in the magazines, and then I wrote my books after that. So, no, Tony knows what he's talking about. Nobody understands a bird like Tony. And when it comes to form and structure and, color, yeah, there's nobody better than Tony, actually. So get his book. It's on Amazon.com. The American American Game Fowl Standard, and get to know that book and try to do your selection accordingly. We have some great programs inside the Breeders' Academy that would help you too. And then, like I said, I can do coaching calls. But one of the critical skills is a breeder's ability to identify genetic weaknesses. And I know this very well, and how easy it is to misunderstand or not recognize those things. Again, I'll say what I've always said is when I finally got Tony to come over here and look at my birds, which I was very proud of, by the way, he picked them apart in a very nice way, but he picked them apart and showed me basically I didn't have a damn thing. The birds weren't worth anything. They were all flawed. I don't think I had one bird that really represented its breed. They either had the wrong type and conformation, the stations were way off, they had serious defects, the carriages were off, and then they were sick. And I pretty much had to get rid of everything. I think I did eventually, out of the birds I had when he finally got here, I did get rid of all those. And then him and I got the Colonel Givens from Colonel Givens, and that started a whole new thing for me. And then just little by little, I just started getting rid of all my birds until I got to the Colonel Givens. I call them the Maximus line now. And then I just worked on those. I put all my attention into those. But I think that's part of the problem, because I would go visit people's farms, and it would just bewildered me how they didn't see some of these defects, like whole yards of birds with all duck toe. Some people just didn't even think that was an issue, didn't even see it sometimes. Or I go on a farm and they all had squirrel tail. And at the time, to me, I thought that was like the kiss of death. That was a serious defect. It is a serious defect, But being it's a polygenic trait, it's actually fixable. It would just take time. Polygenic traits are never fixed overnight. It takes generations to fix. Bring in outside blood, and you just start over. You didn't fix anything. So understand that. And then one of the worst ones that I went and saw, which just bewildered me, was a farm that had rye tail. And on that, some of them had just a little bit of rye tail where they just kind of leaned over a little bit, or the tails would just flop all over the place. I can't, if someone's moving their bird around or picking up their bird and moving it around or putting it on the ground, I want to see that tail. I want to see a strong tail. I want to see a bird that has the control of that tail. Let's put it that way. But when I see him sitting down, walking, and the tail's just kind of flying all over the place, that's a bird that doesn't have control of his tail. Or a bird that's just kind of leaning it over the side. That really hurts my eyes when I see that. But I went on a farm one time where the tails were laying all the way over to the side, almost horizontal. And he didn't have any idea that was an issue. He just, I just don't get that, So I can see, wait a minute, I can see how easy it is for some people to not understand what a genetic trait is, or what represents a genetic, a defect, a genetic defect, what a defect is, and how it can just get out of hand really quick, or they think that it's just something they can take care of later, that it's not a big deal because there's other traits the bird has that makes it worth keeping, or makes a bird valuable to them, and they just think, oh, I'll just take care of that later. Well, before it's too late. What are you going to say, Nancy?
I don't remember now. But I do have a question for you. Okay, so what polygenic traits can't you fix? Because you were talking about polygenic traits that...
Poly,
yes.
Polygenic.
Polygenic traits.
Okay. Unfixable. Rye tail would be a big one. Most of them, now you can't fix the trait on the bird that's actually expressing the trait, the defect itself, but we can fix the offspring over time, like crooked breastbone. We talk about that a lot. That's a bird with really poor bone density. Okay. Now, that's one of the traits that, it can be caused by environment, it can be caused by nutrition or poor nutrition. But, all the genetic books will tell you that defects like that, the environment, which I think nutrition is part of, will cause the defect, but it's the genetics that allows it to happen. So understand, when you see a fault, I would always treat it as a defect, as a genetic defect. Okay. I'm trying to think. What was your question again? I already forgot what it was.
What polygenic traits can't you fix? You said rye tail was one of them that you cannot fix.
Well, no, I think most of them can be fixed over time, just not the birds that are expressing them. Except for rye tail, because rye tail can be all kinds of things.
So what I was going to say is how you don't understand how some people just don't understand that your whole yard is duck toe, or your whole yard is sunken eye, or something like that. I think for them, some of them, they don't have the list that we have inside the Breeders' Academy. That's 88 types of defects that we have inside the Breeders' Academy. They just don't realize that is a defect.
No, I get it. Yeah. I mean, like you said, 88 defects on the Breeders' Academy, and I've seen most of them on my birds at one time. And I see all the time when I judge shows, and I have to disqualify a bird because it has a defect, and then I call the breeder over to let him know, because I want him to know why I did that, and they're shocked. I never seen that before. I didn't even know that was an issue. So no, it's understandable. I get it. But, it's not just experience too, because you can spend a lot of time breeding your breed. For me, it's game fowl, and never see it, and hang around people that don't know anything about it until all of a sudden you find out years later, and then it's too late, So, but when you're breeding defects, you're going to multiply that defect pretty rapidly. Your performance on those birds, no matter what kind of bird you're breeding, is going to decline over time. And eventually the bloodline's going to collapse. And you're either going to have to, which is sometimes a kiss of death in its own, but it's always their last resort, is you're going to have to add new blood to fix them. And then they're going to change. They're not going to be never will they be what they once were. They're going to be a completely different strain at that point, or you're going to have to get rid of them and start over. And that's a reality that I see quite a bit. So, but knowing the breed and its purpose is a big deal. Now, I see a lot of people who understand the purpose for which their birds were bred or created, but they don't understand the breed itself. They don't understand what makes up the breed. They don't understand the form and function of the breed. They don't understand how to breed the bird, but they understand the purpose for the breed. And I want to learn everything about the bird. I want to understand the history of the bird. I want to understand the breed itself, what represents a breed. I want to understand how to breed them. I want to understand where the faults are in that particular breed. There's a lot of breeds out there. Well, let's put it this way. Some breeds are known to have certain faults where other breeds have other faults. Okay. Breeds like the American game fowl, they got so many different bloodlines in them. They tend to have everything, you know what I mean? And so it takes a special breeder to not only locate the right birds to get started with, or at least try to do the best with the ones you have. But either way, you've got to know how to fix them as you go, because things are going to come up. Certain defects, certain faults, deleterious genes, whatever, sicknesses are going to be expressed that you need to learn what to do about. And you just can't randomly breed, put them together, see what you get all the time. There has to be a system, a method to get that done. So understanding the breed and the purpose of the breed is really important. That's going to help you determine how to do those things so that you get the result you're looking for. I hear you saying something.
Yes. Okay, I'm checking out the chat and I'm listening to you. Just remind me at the end of the show, you've got Sean and I think it's Ryan. They're on two different islands in the Hawaiian Islands, and they're getting two different results from the birds. And I just kind of want to touch bases on that at the end of the show.
Okay, go. Let's do it now, because we're kind of talking about that now.
Okay. Well, I didn't star anything, but so Sean, the Goldens, okay. Let me see. How can I say this? They're coming out in two different ways. And then, so, let me go back. I'm going to start with this one here, guys.
Why'd
and
you
let me
bring
know.
it up if you don't?
Well, no, it just like, it just dawned on me, because one of them, their birds are coming out one way, and the other one, his birds are coming out the other way.
Okay, fine, but you're not saying anything to me. I need a lot more information than that.
Sean, I have Goldens that come out pumpkin even when I breed them to only whites. That line is so mashed up with 4 different bloodlines. And to me, it can never be fixed due to genetic diversity, because Sean had the question about that.
Yeah, so they're basically mongrels, and he's got too much genetic variability, too much diversity to actually zero them down into a strain, a good strain. Yeah, so he may have to start over. Unless he can find an Adam and Eve that match each other, that he can have what he's looking for, and then begin from there. But who knows what's hiding within the genome that's going to mess him up as he goes. It sounds like that's an issue. Yeah,
and then Sean was saying, really, you have one of the best breeders of Goldens on Oahu. I only get white when bred together, even brother and sister. So he's going, And then, so Sean's saying also, Ryan, I hear you. I wonder why we get different results, because they're on 2 different islands. And I was thinking,
they sound like 2 different birds altogether. So I'm not sure why they're having that question. I mean, if they were the same birds, same family, same type of birds, and they just live on different islands and they're getting different, then we're talking about epigenetics. But they're talking, just because they're American game, they sound like 2 different, I don't know, Nancy. I don't know what to say about that. I can see why they're not getting the same thing, why they're getting different things. That doesn't surprise me whatsoever by the way you're describing it.
Okay. I was also thinking along the lines of not epigenetics, but the environment.
It's epigenetics.
Epigenetics. Okay. Wouldn't the environment have something to do with that as well?
Okay. Well,
Because when you're in two different environments, you've got some traits that are going to express where they wouldn't.
No. Listen. Yeah, if you got the same family of birds and you see a different result, then we're talking about epigenetics. Just because they're American game doesn't mean anything. The traits are hiding or that are expressed or hiding in this family of birds, which maybe Sean, who was the other one, Ryan, and
yeah,
he has American games, and the traits that they're expressing and hiding are completely different because they're not even related for one thing. Okay. And so they're probably, hate to use the word, but they got so many different bloodlines in them, it sounds like, that they're basically mongrel blood. They're genetically mongrels. Okay. To make a family from that, they're both going to have to do the same thing, which is find the Adam and Eve within all the birds they have. And hopefully they match each other and are close to what they're looking for as far as, representing their breed and having the right type conformation, carriage and station and color, and then all the other traits that we look for in the breed. If they can find that, they can start a family from that. And then they're just going to have to put them through the cleanup process in the Founders Program to get them to a point where we can work them into the foundation stage. Okay. And they both know what I'm talking about there. Okay. So to compare those two breeders, I don't think you can do that. Those are two completely different situations, even though they're in Hawaii and different islands.
Okay.
That's easy for me to understand.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for enlightening me.
I'm not sure I did, actually. I'm not sure that I even gave them any good information on that, other than that they've got some things they got to work through. And I don't know, without seeing them, I don't know if they have something to work with. I don't know. It sounds like they may have to get better birds and start over. I don't know.
I may not be representing both of them as well as I could be because I haven't read to you all of the comments that they were going back and forth with. But the one thing that got me is they are on two different islands, and one was wondering why his are coming out one way when the other one is coming out a different way. And
they're two different. They're not related. Who knows?
Bloodlines. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. That's yeah. I don't even know what to say to that.
But going back to breed and strain was developed for specific purposes. Yes, they're mongrels. Ryan's just reaffirming that. But going back to, the specific purpose that they were bred for, you can't make a hen be really good at laying eggs, like, 300 eggs a year, that her variety doesn't normally do that.
If she wasn't bred for that purpose, obviously you're not going to get those results.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you got to understand. That's what I mean. You have to understand what the birds are capable of doing and what they were originally bred for, and then you breed towards improving those traits. And that takes time because they're all those kind of traits are all polygenic. Okay. So when we're talking about, now let's go to the next one, like sickness. I don't even know if we're going to get to all these, but just understand for my members that all this article I created for it and all the show notes are going to go with this particular video. So on the website, if you want to learn more, if we don't get to all this, it's all going to be on the website and you can check it out. I hope to get through all this. We're running out of time, but
you got 7 minutes.
Yeah, let's extend it because we didn't get far, and this is really good. So we kind of blew it.
No, you blew it, not me.
Yeah, I let you ask me a question, so
it's not your fault. You let me.
Okay, let me see if I can fly through some of this and get to some of the good stuff. So, okay, sickness, disease, susceptibility. That's a clear sign of genetic weakness. So whenever you got poor health, low disease, you're going to have low disease resistance. So basically, you want to cull the sick, or you want to cull anything that was sick. Especially birds that are requiring a lot of medication. Try to get them off the medication. But if they're needing a lot of medication, that's a weak bird, okay? Or some people would say birds that recover quickly, but still, if they got sick in the first place and they have low resistance to that disease, then they're just going to get sick again probably. And then they're going to pass that weakness to their offspring. So I would say birds that were never sick. Try to move forward with those. If you can't, just try to breed to the healthiest ones. Only use medications enough to get birds on the ground so that you have a selection, you can move forward, eventually get them off the medications, because you really don't know what you have until you get off the medications. And they're only as strong as their immune system is allows them. And the better genetic resistance they got, the better they're going to be. So mitochondrial DNA plays a role in that, potency, that kind of thing. But you can't get your way there through medication. You have to select your way there. You have to do a lot of culling, and you got to select your way there. Okay, so if you have a strong strain, if they have good natural disease resistance, they have strong immune systems, and they tend to thrive under whatever environment they happen to be in. I know some people in the Philippines. I got quite a few members in the Philippines who, I'll talk to some people and they say, well, I'm in the Philippines and without the medications, my birds would all die. It's just too harsh here. And I hear this in other parts, even in the United States, some places. And I just think that's totally wrong. And I actually do have some members in the Philippines that followed my suggestion, followed my advice and what we teach on the Breeders' Academy. And they are not using medications. They got healthy birds and they're doing really well. Okay, so you can't tell me it can't be done,
Yeah, because they got strong immune systems. Even some birds that have gotten sick and have recovered from it, their immune system is in question. And you don't want to breed to that.
Yeah. So if you got a healthy hen that's never been sick and really active, and she's producing offspring to just jump out of the shell and they just never get sick and they grow and develop properly, you've got a good hen. That's a good hen. She has good mitochondrial DNA, and that's a golden hen, actually. And then we get into the high genetic variability and the expression of recessive defects. That's defects, especially recessive defects, which are most of them some of them are polygenic too, but recessive defects are important because although the parents may not express the defect, it may be hiding within her. But if both parents carry it, they both carry the same recessive gene, you're going to see it in the offspring. And sometimes you get away with it. Sometimes it won't show up in the first hatch, but maybe 3-4 generations down, you start really seeing it. And then it really shows you what they have. And it's you're combining the genes. I mean, you're doing the inbreeding that you need to do, which is going to expose those kind of things. And that's why a lot of people are afraid of inbreeding. And it's why a lot of people rely on outcrossing, because outcrossing is a great method for hiding a lot of things for a while. It's very temporary. But anytime you outcross or bring in new blood, you're also bringing in problems with them that you may not see right away. Again, you might not see it for a little while. Again, that's why everybody just every few years brings in new blood, hides all the faults,
But does it really? No.
It hides it for a while, but you're not creating anything. You're not creating a family. You're not selectively breeding them to be better in their what I call complete package, in the way they look, act, and perform. You need to select your way there, not try to fix it with other people's birds, because there's a lot of defects out there. And like I said, there's like 88 of them. And some of them include Nancy, you got something green here. Did you want to mention that, or did we already do that?
No, we haven't we haven't discussed it within Link.
You want to do that real quick?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just didn't, your cursor isn't moved, so I don't know exactly where you are.
I'm at the green. Yeah, I don't always click where I'm at.
I know. And he expects me to know
I
exactly
just fly through it,
I'm trying.
Okay.
Okay, so back to the question that we had at the beginning of the show of what are the common defects and disqualifications that are genetically influenced. And the reason why
I thought we did answer that. Okay, go ahead.
No, we didn't go into length about it. And the reason why, and then your answer was no, everything is genetically influenced. And the reason why I brought up that question is some people believe that some defects are brought on by nutrition and can either be fixed through nutrition, or nutrition has caused the defect to surface.
Nutrition is not going to affect the genetics of the bird. It's not going to really allow traits to be expressed that weren't expressed before, or change the intensity of the trait. Now, I believe nutrition is important because it improves the quality of the bird, the health of the bird, that kind of thing. But it's not going to influence the genetics of the bird. Okay. And so when we look at what's genetic and what's not, I think everything can be. I would look at everything as genetic if it comes to the way I select them. But when it comes to like the environment and sometimes nutrition can make it seem like it doesn't, but I don't think it actually. I know it doesn't. It doesn't influence the expression of genes. It just, you know, it can change the weight of the bird. It can make it seem like it's polygenic. Okay, that's just a fat bird. Okay, that's not a polygenic trait. That's just a bird that's either fat or too thin. Okay, you overfed them or fed them the wrong foods. Okay, so when I'm looking at nutrition, they're either not going to be healthy or they're going to be overweight or underweight. That's the biggest things you see. Okay, or nutrition can affect the reproduction of the bird. So whether they are, it can mean that they're not as fertile. It can cause infertility. It can cause poor hatchability. It can cause unthrifty chicks. It can cause poor growth and development. Those kind of things are the things that nutrition has an influence on. Okay. I do believe most of the feeds on the market today aren't far off. I mean, our birds have been living on the feeds that are in the feed stores for years. And up until the last few years, nobody was really complaining about their feeds too much. Now, I will say that gamecock feeds, that's not a complete feed. You do want a complete feed. I would say most of the laying feeds are the bottom of the barrel when it comes to the quality of feeds. Okay. I do think there's some good feeds out there, like Nutrina. I think they put out some of the best feeds out there that you can get on the shelf. I don't think anything's wrong with those. So I do think that. Be careful of supplements, because although supplements have their value and I think they can be used for a short time to help your birds through some hard times, I don't think they should be on supplements all the time. I think you need to kind of limit the amount of supplements they get and how often they get them. If you think you need supplements, I would spend more time fixing my feed so that I don't need the supplements. But if you're relying on supplements, then you're hiding weaknesses the bird may have. And I don't want that. I want that bird to thrive in my environment. I want it to thrive in the feed that I give it, in the environment that I'm providing, in the pens that I'm putting it in. Okay. I want those birds to thrive in that. That way I know what I got. And so I'm getting a proper selection. If I have medications, vaccinations, and supplements hiding their true potential, then I'm going to select them improperly. And then I'm not going to realize what I have until down the road they're not what they should be, because those things didn't influence their genetics, but it did influence the way I select them. Okay. So when you look at an environment, and that can change it, because you have histone modifications that work like switches that can turn on and off certain genes depending on their geographical environment. Am I saying that right? Yeah. Okay. And then you have your DNA methylation that can change the intensity, the same way that a polygenic trait would work. It changes the intensity of the trait, where it seemed better than it used to be, or now it seems better now than, or it seems better than it used to be, or it's not as good as I thought it was, or the way it used to be. And then I have to select my way there. So those things can change the genetics there. But, and then you have the RNA, transcription, they'll decide whether those traits are expressed or not. So that's what epigenetics is all about. So, but it all comes down to looking at the phenotype of the bird. I can only select from there. The genotype does encompass the whole bird, I guess you could say, but the genotype is going to show the variation as you go. And then you determine whether you want to cull that bird because you don't like that variation, or you actually breed to and exaggerate it to make it a permanent part of the family. So, and I went way off your question, didn't I?
No. Okay. Got to tell you a little story here, guys. Story time. So years ago, this had to be maybe close to 15 years ago, Kenny was judging a show. And after the show, we all went to dinner, and it was a fabulous dinner, really nice dinner with a group of friends.
Oh yeah.
And there were the person that ran the show was us, and it was another breeder from
Don't say
no,
who it
it
is.
was another breeder from another area, and well known. He's been breeding for a while, and this is well before I knew half of what I know now. I mean, I don't think I knew anything. I wasn't when Kenny used to talk about chickens, I was, one ear, not the other. And I'm like, yeah, honey, okay, great. Because he was so excited about chickens. And I was, of course, raised in the city. But they got on the conversation of crooked breast bone. And these particular people believed that, oh, it's just because of the roost. It's the way that they're sitting on the roost at night, and that caused the crooked breastbone. And Kenny was, I don't know if Tony was there with you that time as well and arguing with you.
He might have been. But I don't think he was arguing, but it was
Kenny was like, nope, that's not what it is. It's genetic. It may have that because the roost, but it's,
you want me to tell genetics. It? Let me say it. Okay. Because you're all over the place. And I'm going to have to repeat it anyways.
Okay, fine.
Well, you get me started. I can take over from there. Okay. Because I know exactly what you're talking about. So she was right. We got in a conversation. I don't remember how we got in a conversation, but I think he was telling, now I'm doing it. The guy that was hosting us for the dinner, big dinner, back room, table where you get special treatment in this big restaurant. It was awesome. Okay. So we got in a big conversation, and he was trying to tell the host that the crooked breastbone is not a big deal, that it's just caused by the roost. And a lot of times it's when they're roosting too early. I was like, no, that's not how it is. And I know that because I studied, it was funny because I was studying at the time, a number of geneticists. And I think I was talking to Doug about it, and FB Hunt I had just read it in his book, and he was saying that that's how I get the term that it's the environment, which is the roost in this case, causes it, but it's the genetics that allows it to happen. That poor bone density, or crooked breastbone, is poor bone density, and if it's affecting them there, it's affecting through the whole skeleton, and it shows you what's going on with the bird. That's just a little hint of it. And so we got in that big discussion. We went back and forth, and I almost thought we were going to get up and start fighting each other. It was so
it got heated.
It got heated really bad because they were so against it. And I told them I've seen them here, and to this day I've got some roost out there that are not. I mean, if they're susceptible to get a crooked breastbone, they're going to get it. And on some of the roosts I have, and they never get it because I don't breed too weak birds. My birds have good bone density. I never see a crooked breastbone ever on mine. And so, we went back and forth for quite a while. It got really heated. And I was like, you're just wrong. I didn't mince words. I says, you're just completely wrong.
You telling me I don't know how to breed my
that's
chickens?
What he said too. I go, you don't know this. I can tell you that right now. Yeah. And the host was like, he's watching a fight going on. He didn't know what to say. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He did that too when Tony and I got into it. We were sitting in his living room, and Tony and I got in the heat. But Tony and I, we know each other. We're good friends. We're basically family. And him and I were going back and forth in something. I don't know what it was. And this guy was looking at us, and he looked scared, like we were going to get up and start fighting because we were kind of yelling at each other. That's how Tony and I can be sometimes. It's so funny. And then he walked out of the room like he got nervous. Like he was like, oh my God, I can't believe what's going on. The great Kenny and the great Tony are fighting in my living room. What am I going to do? He's like, he left the room. Tony and I watched them go out like that. We're looking at you, goes, he doesn't know us very well. That was so funny. Yeah, he thought he had a fight on his hands in his own living room with Kenny and Tony, So
I was there to witness it, and of course I didn't have a clue what they were talking about.
I don't remember what it was either.
Who was right and who was wrong, or whatever. Yeah. But I so wish I could go back in time and be privy to those conversations again with the knowledge that I have now.
Yeah.
Join right in.
I mean, it would be times we'd argue, and Tony would say something, go, oh, okay. Yeah, I guess you're right. And then sometimes I was like, no, Tony. I mean, inbreeding, it could have been inbreeding because we get heated on that one. We get to talking about inbreeding and the pros and cons of it, how to use it properly. And that it's a great tool, and he just like totally against it. And we just go back and forth. I cannot convince him that inbreeding can be used, if used properly, as a great tool, that it would enhance. I think every breeding program should have some element of inbreeding in it. Otherwise, you're not gonna fixate or fix the genes or lock the genes in. You're not gonna. Every breed of animal, chicken, dog, whatever, would not exist without some sort of inbreeding. It has to happen.
Yeah.
Robert Bakewell, the father of selective breeding, I mean, that's one of his biggest arguments, that people they never bred past the land race. He didn't call it that at the time, but that's basically what he was saying, that everything they had at the time were land race breeds, because they just bred whatever to whatever, just bred the best. And nothing was uniform. They had animals that were big, small, different sizes, different colors. There was no uniformity whatsoever, and they weren't able to improve them. Where Robert Bakewell, he started teaching people, he started realizing the value of inbreeding and selectively breeding in a way that created families, strains, breeds. And when everybody saw what he was doing, they started following him, and we've been doing it ever since. Like I said, all the cattle, pigs, rabbits, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, chickens, dogs, cats, we wouldn't have these breeds if it wasn't for inbreeding. That selective breeding all by itself would only create more land races, and inbreeding without inbreeding, you wouldn't have any uniformity, no predictability, and they wouldn't be able to repeat themselves. So inbreeding is real important. I just couldn't convince Tony. We agreed about a lot of things, but we never agreed on inbreeding to this day. He's just so against it. He looks at it as poison. So, I'm trying to see how much is, let's see if I can fly through some of this. What do we got? What time is it? Oh, okay. Defects, there's a lot of types of defects. You got eye problems, beak problems, back issues, skeletal system issues, tail issues, wing issues, leg issues. There's so much to consider when you're looking at the bird, and any one of those things can mess you up. You have crooked toes, neurological issues, poor growth and development, and then you got color, plumage, and condition. All those can be they can be right or they can be wrong, and usually it's because of defects. Recessive defects, I would say they're the most dangerous, just because you don't know where they are, if they have them. You don't know until two birds are matched up with the same copy of that particular trait, that particular defect, and whether it's going to be expressed. And once you start seeing it, that's when you need to take charge. You need to not make those two birds together, and their offspring that they produce. You got to really be careful what you select and what you breed, and when you see them, you cull them. Okay. Deleterious genes are big, because deleterious genes are important because they really affect the survival of the bird, the performance of the bird, and its reproductive success. So if they got deleterious genes, it may kill them, or they're not going to perform and represent their breed. Or they're not going to represent what they were bred for. Okay. Or they're not going to be able to reproduce themselves and actually produce young and actually bring the family to the next level, or even at all. So deleterious genes is really important. Deleterious genes are really important. And how do you get them? Outcrossing, infusion, crossbreeding, all those kind of things. That's how you get them.
Explain what a deleterious gene is.
I just did.
What does deleterious mean then?
It means hurtful, harmful, threatening, all those kind of things. The things that will ruin them and kill them at sometimes. They have failure to thrive. The offspring can be weak and lethargic. They have poor coordination and balance, which that's like I said, it affects their neurological system. They have really low tolerances for stress. So you have birds that are more high strung and wild than they should be. I also actually think sometimes the man fighting that we see in cocks is associated with stress, the stress level, the adrenal level and the stress level has a lot to do with man fighters. Okay. Then it affects fertility, hatchability, and eventually it does affect their immune system, which means they're going to get sick a lot. So
lethal genes?
Lethal genes are big. I look at those as deleterious genes too. Yeah, lethal genes are big. Most of those are recessive. Some can be dominant or easy. If I had a dominant lethal gene, I wouldn't be as worried. I can probably eliminate it pretty quickly. Recessives are scary, and there's so many of them out there. I mean, if you don't have if you have birds that are doing pretty well and they're progressing, and you're not seeing deleterious or lethal genes, then don't add outside blood, because breeding to the wrong bird could ruin everything. And once you introduce those into your family, it's really tough to get out. It really is. So, type and conformation, carriage station, we talked about that a little bit. I think the biggest problem is nobody knows what the proper structure of their birds should be. And I see this in American games all the time. Nobody knows what a proper American game should look like. Okay.
Well, yeah, because you have 10 different standard perfections for American games. So which one do you believe?
But Nancy, they're not even following those. Okay. They just don't understand the breed. They just breed everything into them, think that a game fowl is a game fowl. Okay. Well, fine, I guess. That's not for me. I want my birds to represent their breed. I want to improve them every year. Okay. So yeah. But they do. They need to represent their breed, and if they don't, they'll eventually fail to meet their purpose, too. So I would cull any bird that has an incorrect type conformation, okay, because that's what represents their breed. Any of the birds that have faulty carriage and station, and I'm seeing it all the time. There's so many. I have a folder called the Wall of Shame, and I'm always collecting birds that have the improper type conformation, carriage, and station. Sometimes I'll pick color, but color isn't that important to me, but the structure of the bird's even more important. And that file is huge. Very seldom. When I see a nice bird, I'll click those every once in a while. But that's a very small file. I hate to say it, but I don't find very many birds I think represent their breed that well, because I want to be able to use these for some of the programs I'm putting together, like the conformation program that we're going to be putting together pretty soon. I would call any bird with a skeletal structure problem, whether it's in the breast, the back, or anything. If I see anything, they're going to go. Weak backs, whether they're humpback, narrow back, short backs, those got to go. The gamecock has American gamecock has a very specific type of back. Try to breed towards that. Breast muscles. Now, if you have anybody convincing you that the birds, you're trying to tell them that the birds seem light and they've lost their breast muscle, I believe you more than I believe the person that says that's okay, that they're probably where they should be. I'm hearing that a lot lately, and that's just nonsense. We know as game fowl breeders, most game fowl breeders, I don't have to show them. I could hand them a bird that's light and lost their breast, and they notice it right away. I don't have to convince them of that. They know what that means. So when you pick up a bird that's really light and you can feel quite a bit of their breastbone, and they have no breast muscle whatsoever, that's a serious thing. That's a big deal. Okay. That could mean poor nutrition. That could mean, these days, it seems to be supplements that are out there that are doing it, or it could mean that they're lacking, they're dehydrated. And the problem is once they lose that breast muscle, they get that light, they may gain some weight back, but they never get the breast muscle back. So it's important not to get there in the first place.
Well, isn't the breast muscle important for flight?
Yeah, it's the main part of the bird. It's the flight muscle. It's the actual flight muscles.
Oh, I'm gonna sneeze. Now, back to conformation of body, which is so important because the parts of the bird, every part of the bird has its function and has its important function for the whole makeup of that bird. And I can't wait till we do conformation of body, because people think, oh, rounded back, hey, they're still performing really well. Well, okay, if all my birds have rounded back, who cares? I mean, there are so many different things about the bird that everything in its proper place, Kenny likes to call it, that if you don't have that, they may be getting by and you may be getting lucky with how their behaviors are, but think about how much better your birds could be if they had the right conformation of body.
Do they represent their breed? That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. The type represents a breed, and the conformation represents its purpose. Okay. Yeah. So Yeah. A lot of people want to lump type, conformation, carriage, and station all into one thing. And I like to separate them because they're very distinct. They're more, how do you say it? They're more distinct than you think. They really put the bird into separate categories and understand the bird properly. And I think you select for them differently. I do think you breed, I do believe you breed for the complete package, and that's important. But if you understand that how the type of the bird is supposed to be, the conformation, all its parts and its proper places and proportions, okay, that's a big deal. They have have the right carriage, how they hold their body and the way they walk, type of thing. And in the station, if any one of those four things are out of place, the bird looks terrible.
Some
Okay.
people don't care what the bird looks like.
Then don't join the Breeders' Academy because you're not going to like it. Okay. Yeah, I don't think those guys are true breeders. No, I don't.
You
I don't
got
think
some work to do.
I don't think those guys are true breeders when they think like that, because those birds aren't going to last long. They might be able to do the purpose for which they're bred right now, but eventually they won't. That kind of thing is going to catch up to them.
Okay, I've got 9 questions starred, and Carlos, I've got you starred, so don't worry about you. I get you.
Okay, you know what? I'm looking at this stuff on here, and I talked about most of it. Let's go ahead and take some questions, and then we'll talk about the last part, and then move on. For my members, you're going to be able to go into the website, check out the video. You're going to get the members version of this video. That means all the front end, back end, all the advertisers are going to be gone. All the small talk going to be gone, and then you're going to get the show notes and the article that goes with it, and you can read it. It'll be the complete version. So let's go ahead and answer some of the questions. I might end it with this last part, and then we'll let everybody go.
All right. Okay. So Kenny, when do you recommend starting incubators? I already have mine going, but I keep hearing, people saying breeding season is coming, like it's not already here.
I think it's here now.
I think it's here too.
Yeah. So what I normally do is I'll put my birds together, the brood pens, late December, early January. So I'll go through my birds, make sure they're in good shape, make sure all my brood pens are in order. And then I'll put my birds together. And they usually start laying around February, beginning of February. And then I usually wait because I have all my hens cleaned out already. So I don't usually have to worry about that, because I don't keep hens with cocks that I won't be breeding them with, or that don't need to be with a cock. I keep my birds pretty well separated just to keep them clean. And I'll put them together in January. By February, they're laying, and I'll usually wait a good 3-4 weeks before I start collecting eggs. And so you're usually at the end of February, early March, and you can start hatching them. I do believe that you're in breeding season right now for most of us. Yeah.
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 Okay. Sean's question, and he may need to schedule a coaching call.
Okay.
It's a question about whites. It's a white family that started from a sport from a pumpkin colored family. If bred to the same family, they come solid white. If bred to anything else, they come pumpkin colored.
Okay. Well, that pumpkin color is that autosomal pheomelanin that Brian talks about a lot. Okay. That just shows that there's some red in there. If he's getting the solid white, let me see. Let me read again. So it's a white family that started from sports. Now, our understanding of sports these days might be a little wrong. Now, did they come out as a sport or a mutation from the jungle fowl? Yeah, but long time ago. I believe that a lot of birds today already have the white in them, which is recessive. If they have the dominant white, that they would express it. If you breed a dominant white to a red, you're going to see whites with red in them, like splash and red pile and things like that. So that's how you know if you have a dominant white. And if you breed dominant to dominant, hoping that they're homozygous for dominant, then that's good. You want to maintain that kind of thing. If you have reds and you're getting whites from time to time, it just means the white was already in there. It just took 2 birds carrying the white recessive trait for it to be expressed. So yeah. And then if you got a recessive white, who knows? And this is the problem he's probably having. if you have a recessive white, who knows what's hiding underneath them? So when you breed that recessive white, and let me know if I'm on track, you breed that recessive white to another white, and that's carrying the autosomal phenomelanin, then you're going to get that pumpkin color you're talking about. If you breed it to another bird, then, who knows what's going to happen. So recessives, they can hide a lot of stuff in them. They can hide barred in them. They can hide red in them. They can hide all kinds of stuff in them. Who knows? But what's that?
He says even grays will come pumpkin colored any place that is black on a gray bird. That would be recessive white, correct?
Pumpkin. Well, that's even grays will come pumpkin colored. Place that black on a gray bird. Oh, in place any place that is black on a gray bird. I have to see his bird. That's not making sense to me. I would need to see the mother and father and the bird you're talking about, and then I'll have a better idea what we're talking about. Other than that, I'm going to be feeling like I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do a coaching call, definitely, and talk about it. I'd like to see the birds, and I could probably tell you right away what I'm looking at. Right now, something's doesn't sound right to me. So.
Okay, I believe this is more or less a statement. Unless your premises is a clone of the original breeders and your eye for selection is also a clone of theirs, then in a matter of a couple of seasons, they'll change massively.
Who knows how much they'll change, but I would expect them to change. Yeah. As far as the premise, we're talking about the same, like your neighbor, okay, or somebody in your town, or you're part of the state, I guess. And yeah, I mean, for the most part, he's right, but who knows how much they'll change? It depends, but I would expect them to change. He's right about that for sure.
What are the subtle signs of weaker chickens?
Disease. Some get sicker than others. Disease is a big one. Of weaker chickens. Well, yeah, disease, I would say. Low mitochondrial DNA. A hen that just has really poor mitochondrial DNA, if the conditions are just right or right enough, it can seem like she's producing really good offspring. But then you kind of notice that the birds aren't, as thrifty as maybe some of the others. Could be a little off, or maybe not growing and developing as well as some of the others. That's a good sign that that's probably a hen you wouldn't want to breed anymore and get rid of the offspring. But yeah, disease is a big one. Yeah, subtle defects. Some defects are more noticeable than others, I guess.
Okay.
Another one. Progressive white would be a good one for that. A lot of people, they see a lot of white coming in the plumage. Sometimes it's just in the tail. Sometimes it may be in the wings. Sometimes you'll see it coming in the under hackle. And a lot of people think that's a really good and looks fine, and sometimes people like that and they breed for it. Well, sometimes that white gets, if you don't control how much white it's producing, it can get worse as it goes. Now, Brian says it's not a genetic defect. It's actually a RNA transcription error, which means it can affect the health of the bird too. So progressive white tends to not only affect the outside of the bird, but the inside of the bird. And sometimes, and this is what I believe too, because I always knew white was bad. I never knew it was called progressive white, and I never knew how bad it was overall. I learned really quickly through Brian how bad it could actually get and what it means. So and this is why I think some people add new blood, because although they're showing white and it seems like it's looking good, it starts getting out of hand and they go, oh, wow, now they're not looking good. Now I'm going to bring in new blood and fix that. Well, they may temporarily fix that, but that progressive white's still in the bird. And then as they go, the bird seems the quality isn't as good as it used to be. The intensities of its traits aren't as good as they used to be. The health starts to drop, immune system, and then they add new blood and fix it. And sometimes that takes years to actually see that. So progressive white can be one of those things that can hit you. You can see it, but it progresses very slowly, and it could take years before it actually affects your fowl in a real negative way if you don't do something about it. But I think most people are able to hide it because they're always adding new blood. And I just don't think that's the way to go.
Okay, so Nancy, is the information on dogs in the Breeders' Academy just as in depth as chickens? Does Kenny go over recessives in dogs also?
Okay. I was going to do a whole section on dogs, on breeding, because I think a lot of the genetic factors, as far as like monogenic traits, polygenic traits, the effects of codominant, incomplete dominant, recessiveness, as far as resistance to disease, all those things. A lot of the things we talked about, polygenics, monogenics, I probably already said it, are basically the same. But I have some dog breeders in there, and they use the information we provide to breed their dogs, and they're happy with it. You know, the founders program itself will work for dogs. And I do have some graphs in there that will guide you as a dog breeder, because I have the chickens and then I have the dogs in there too. So that'll help you as well. But there's a lot of good information. See, a lot of the information in the Breeders' Academy, although I use chickens as the example for the most part, because that's what I breed. And I always thought it was going to be for chickens for the most part. But I have all kinds of breeders in there, including dogs, and they love it. So all I could tell you is check it out, give it a chance. We can do a coaching call, because I can definitely work you through the breeding of dogs in a coaching call by following the Founders Program. I've done plenty of coaching calls with dogs. I watch some of the other dog shows, and some of the stuff is interesting, but when they start talking about breeding, I realize they don't know anything about breeding at all. And they're the breeders. I mean, I thought chickens were terrible for outcrossing and adding new blood all the time. And even goat breeders understand the value of inbreeding, but dog breeders are some of the worst when it comes to adding outside blood. And I have dog breeders who are following the breeding program, and they're loving it. Because I don't, a lot of people, especially dog breeders, they like to get caught up in the COI, the coefficient of breeding, and the COR, the coefficient of relationship. And those are nice measurements, I guess you could say. I mean, it's nice to know that information. I just don't believe they're as valuable as people think. And I think they can handle a lot more inbreeding than people think too. So I don't get caught up on how high the COI is, because I don't think that determines the value of their breeding worth. And let me say this too, that the Founders Program has a mechanism within the program that'll limit the amount of inbreeding and raise the genetic diversity without adding new blood. That's why it works. That's why it works for all animals. Yep.
Yeah, we have, beekeepers, plant
goats,
raisers,
pigs, rabbits, chickens, ducks, geese,
turkey,
quail, turkey,
budgies, which are parakeet.
Yeah. I have horse breeders in there. Cattle breeders. I got everything in there. Yeah.
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 Okay. And so, like this one, Ryan says, I breed dogs also. The Breeders' Academy works for all types of animals. It has tightened up my breeding program and helped me when I wasn't seeing any progress with my dog breeding.
Yeah. I appreciate that, Ryan. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. I don't know if Ryan and I did a coaching call, but I've done quite a few coaching calls with the dog breeders. Yeah.
I know Gaio was asking how much your coaching calls cost. And I think Ryan told him you have to be a Breeders' Academy member, and then you get free coaching calls with Kenny.
A lot of people want me to do it. It's just, let's put it this way. How do I say this? And my members will know what I'm talking about because of the type of information I would teach you in the coaching call. That if I did a coaching call, I would have to charge you my annual rate, which is $495, because I'm basically teaching you what's in the Founders Program and on the website. So if I'm going to do that, just join the Breeders' Academy, learn what's on the website, and do a coaching call. So I don't even bother setting up a page just for coaching calls. It's just easier for you to just join, do the coaching call, and if you like what you see and you like the information we're providing and the help I give you, then stick around. If not, then it's not for you and you can leave. You can quit anytime.
Yeah. Absolutely. So
Yep.
El Gallo says he's only a few hours from me. I wish I could take him to lunch. And then Ryan says, I would love to fly Kenny out to Hawaii and have him here for lunch.
Yeah. Maybe.
So would I.
Yeah. I've been to Hawaii a couple times, and we keep talking about going back. It's on our bucket list to go back. Yeah. So I'd love to meet you guys, Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure if you're around town, if we could here's the thing. I'd love to get together with you, have lunch, all that. I love talking chickens, and I've done it with plenty of members.
Yeah.
I just have to schedule it. That's the key. You just can't show up in my town and say, hey, I'm here, because I may not even be in town, or I can't get away, or in the middle of something because we're doing 3 shows a week. I have
4.
Whatever free time I have, I've got projects to get done. 4. What do you mean 4?
You've got the audio version that comes out on Monday. You've got Monday live.
We have to edit that.
Yeah.
And then we do coaching calls on Thursday, which takes up the whole day too.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I love to meet you guys. I have no problem with that. We just have to schedule it.
Exactly. So Carlos is asking, can I get 3 pure lines from Sweater Hen, Hatch Hen, and Kelso Rooster from your course?
What? I'm not sure.
See, we don't really talk the name game here.
Yeah,
but
I don't sell birds. If he's talking about my birds, I don't sell birds.
No, he's not.
Okay.
He's like he has a Sweater Hen, he has a Hatch Hen, and he has a Kelso Rooster.
Oh, I see. Okay. I can help you create a family from those birds, but I would tell you right away to ditch the names, because the names mean nothing, first of all. And what we end up with will be better what you have, but they won't represent any strain or name or anything like that. They're going to be American game, but they're going to be yours, and they're going to be properly put together and bred properly. Those names mean anything. Let me see the lines he said, because I know what that means for most of us, because they can represent specific colors. Okay, so let's break it down a little bit. You can breed those together, but you're going to have to settle on certain colors. Conformation for American game should be the same no matter what strain you're talking about, whatever name. The conformation should always remain the same. If their conformation is different between the 3, then they don't represent their breeding. That's simple as that. Okay, so sweaters tend to be a light red with wheaten hens. Okay, so you got that. Hatches tend to be like a black-breasted red with partridge hens. So you got that. And then you got the Kelso, which are usually the same, which is a dark red with partridge hens. Although I've seen some Kelsos with they come out black. They end up black. They end up black-breasted red in the end, but they're pretty black in the beginning. And then you also have the ones with the wheaten hens as well, the buff-colored hens, I guess you would call them. So you would have to decide on what color you want to deal with. The leg color, sweater, usually yellow, hatch green, Kelso can be anything. Okay, so you'd have to decide what leg color you want, what comb type you want to keep, and the color, and that would be one of your selection points, but always breed towards the same conformation type, carriage, and station. But you would follow the Founders Program. You would figure out, and I don't know, I'd have to see your birds, because out of those 2 hens, I'm willing to bet that one's better than the other. Okay. And if you're going to go for the dark red, I'd get rid of the sweater right away anyways. So let's say you find out which one's your Adam, which is the only cock you have, I guess, and your Eve, and that's where you would start. And then we would just work through the Founders Program. The Adam and Eve is the Genesis stage or phase of the program. Then we go into the cleanup process, which is what we call the transformation stage. And that's getting them all cleaned up. And then we move them, once we feel like we got them cleaned up and we've locked in some of the genes, and we move them over into the foundation stage. And that's where we really fine tune them and make them into a family. And that's where they start becoming uniform, consistent. They start becoming predictable, and they start repeating themselves. So, yeah. So you can.
Now take that information straight to the bank, buddy, because you just had a coaching call.
Well, it would be better if I saw the birds and I pulled up the founders program for them and I walk them through that. Yeah, that would probably be better. But he did get a little bit of a mini coaching call, I guess you could say. So,
here's something interesting.
Okay.
They're talking about the Ohio National, by the way, and Sue's going to be going. Cool. No, actually, Frank and Pony is going to be going, and he says, "Let's make it a party."
That's Melissa, by the way.
Frank and Pony's Melissa?
It's her picture.
Oh, okay. But she's hoping that, I didn't look at the name at the picture. Hopefully Aya and Tsunami will get approved at this show. That would be neat.
Yeah, that'd be good.
You know, that is a hard breed. Everything on that bird has to be black. Everything.
Yeah.
So. And
none of them are pure, so they tend to throw other colors, especially white now and then too. So they're tough, but that I would like to see those in the standard, definitely. Maybe help some of them breed them better.
So I hope, Carlos, that helped you. Let us know if that helped you. I think we answered this, but let me ask it anyway. When you breed recessives, are you likely to have more issues? Is it always best to breed towards dominant traits?
Okay. First of all, the idea is to get them as homozygous as possible. Okay. So when you're dealing with recessive, they are homozygous. If they're expressing the recessive trait, they're homozygous for that trait. If they're expressing the dominant trait, it doesn't always mean that they're homozygous, but if they're carrying it, they have to express it. So the idea is to get them as homozygous as possible. The outer part of the bird, the phenotype of the bird, when we're talking about dominant recessive, those are, for the most part, can be what we call superficial traits. Important, but not detrimental. So we try to do the best we can with those, and they can be either dominant or recessive. But a lot of the polygenic type traits, we do want them as dominant, homozygous dominant as possible. And here is the one thing that may lean them towards the dominant too, is that the more inbred they are, the more homozygous they are, the more homozygous dominant they are, the more prepotent they are. So that's something to consider too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds good. And I just screwed up that.
You're a mess.
Couldn't see that subscribe because I had the picture in the way. I mean the
any other questions?
Question in the way. No, I think we are done. We've got one more comment. Let's see. The original Kelso always had hatch in them. Use the Breeders' Academy to help you breed journey, buddy. Help your breeding journey. I
don't get caught up in the names. I do believe that any birds that came off hatch, Kelso, Mr. Kelso, Mr. Hatch, sweaters, farm were always called those. And then who knows how they were bred when they left. I don't think those breeders bred them pure in the first place. Everybody's clinging to the names of birds. I don't think they mean anything. They definitely don't represent a standard, and nobody has the same birds. So I don't go by those names. I go by what's the breed, what's the variety, which is usually the color, and I make a family out of those. So that's what I will say about that. I just, when people start throwing names, I'm like, well, okay, I understand. For the most part, for most of us, I know what they mean by that, or what those birds used to look like, because back in the past when I was a kid, I don't think they meant anything then. I think the names didn't mean any more then than they do now, but at least breeders tried to breed them to represent a certain type of color and conformation, things like that. I don't think they even do that now. They just mix them all up, and nobody's hatches look the same anymore. So
yep.
Yeah. I don't care if they're roundhead, hatch, Kelso, sweater. It doesn't matter. The conformation, type, station, carriage, being American game should be exactly the same. The fact that they're different names or different varieties or different strains according to what people say. I don't think that matters at all. They all should have the same structure. So if someone says that Kelso is different than a hatch, and a hatch is different than a sweater, and a sweater is different from a roundhead, they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be. They're all American games. They should share the same conformation.
You got black-breasted red, and you got
it's funny because
red.
someone will say, listen, Nancy, someone will say, well, roundheads are different because they have a lot of acyl. That used to be the case. And they used to be different. They used to be a different shaped body because of the acyl. They were the only peacombs at the time because of the acyl. But nowadays, they all have acyl. They all have oriental blood. Look at hatch didn't used to be peacomb. They were all straight comb. Kelso too. We didn't have peacomb Kelsos when I was a kid. They were all straight comb. So nowadays, they mixed them up so much that they all have Old English, Spanish, acyl, Irish. They all have that now in them. So it doesn't matter. They're American games now, and they all should have the same type conformation, carriage, and station. Okay, that's all. Anything else?
That is all, folks.
Okay. So I really appreciate you guys coming. Let's see if I can get this worked out before Monday. I might talk about that Monday. I already have an outline for Monday, but I might, if I can get this thing done. I like that topic. We might
just
do
add
that.
to the stuff that we didn't get to tonight.
No, we kind of covered it,
Through
the conversation, we covered most of it here. So I don't need to cover it again. This is
okay.
This is 45 minutes longer than it was supposed to be. So,
all right. Well, I hope you guys all have a great Friday night. Thanks for being here, and like and subscribe, and help us with our algorithm so that we can get the word out there to let everybody know that conformation of body is important.
And I'm told if you like it and a hype thing comes up, press that, and that's supposed to help share it even more. I really appreciate that too.
Yeah.
We're getting a lot of the subscriptions growing. The views are growing. We're really happy with that, and the membership's growing. I'm really happy with that. So I really appreciate that. So we'll see you guys we're gonna see you on Monday, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
3 days.
You want to say bye?
Yeah, 3 days. Okay. Bye.
See you later.